Hello everyone, welcome to tonight's live stream. This is a question time for you to ask any question you like regarding game dev or Unreal Engine. It's totally up to you what you want to ask me. I'm an open book. So all you have to do is put your question into chat and I'll try and answer as many as I can within the time we have. As you may, some of you noticed, I've got a new mic set up. So do let me know if there are any weird issues with the mic and sound. If you need me to fix anything, please do let me know. You're going to be my beta testers for my new mic setup. If I stop hitting it, first of all, would be good. But let me know if anything sounds weird. Yes, tonight is question time. And if you don't know, if you're a Patreon member, you can ask your question ahead of time. We're going over to our Discord channel and asking a question in your question time queue jump. So just go in there, put a question in, and I can answer it first in the stream. So hello everyone in chat. I can see we've got Barter says, hello Rusty, hello again. Music might be a tad bit too loud still. Okay, hang on. Let me just bring that down a bit. A bit much compression I'd say, but might be on YouTube's end. It could be a little louder. We turn the gain up a little bit. I've turned up a little bit there, so let me know if that sounds any better, or it's still a bit meh. Well, there you go. Okay, hopefully you can hear me just fine. And we'll figure it out before I start recording more videos. Cool. Okie dokie. So, let's jump into Unreal. So the first question over in our Discord channel, question time Q jump, we have is from Triz V96, and he asks, or she asks, hey Ryan, quick question. I am setting a quick opening video for my game. The video lags a bit. Does lag in videos get fixed once the game is packaged? Hard to know for certain. Depends on what kind of video you're doing. If you're uploading like a 4K sort of top res, high bitrate video, yeah, it may lag a little bit. But you won't know for certain until you package it. So package it, see what it looks like. That's the only way I can suggest, because each video is going to be very different for each person. Excuse me one second. I'm just going to open the window. Just get a bit too hot in here. Hold on. Okay. So, next question in the question time queue jump is from Mance. I'm having some issues with the AI tutorial and world partition. If the game begins outside the loaded cell, then the AI will not have its blackboard properties set and return errors. In particular, the sense function where the blackboard is the target of the set values object. I don't think the behavior tree is working either. So yeah, if it's not loaded in, then it won't do the begin play. It won't trigger. I haven't tested it properly in the world partitioning system, but you need to have a bit more control about when you run behavior tree. So begin play, I believe, happens when it's loaded, but I could be wrong about that. I haven't tested that out yet. But all that stuff that is setting the blackboard key and all that, make sure it can only reference things that are actually loaded in space. If it's not loaded, then you can use soft object referencing. That is going to give it a reference to a object which may or may not be loaded yet, so you can use that if you want instead. Into the chat we got here on YouTube. The first question I saw was Sohaib. Hey, how to make a water traveling through a glass tube effect. The tube starts empty and then fills with water. Interesting. Okay, let's have a crack at doing that then. So we're also going to need a tube shape, like so. I'll just stretch it out like that. And so I'm going to do it with material. Okay, so not actually a mesh inside of the tube, but it can be just a material. Water tube, we call it. And in here, we're going to set to this one because it makes more sense. We'll be able to preview it a little bit better. And this thing here is going to be translucent. Okay. Now, for the liquid going up and down, we're going to do something cartoony, easier sakes. We need a colour, so let's put a colour in. I'm going to just use like a green, like vial type thing, and we'll put that in the base colour, like so. But I want to cut it off. So the opacity here, I'm going to cut off based upon its height. So you get world position. Way to get these round one way. Object position. Object position. Let me double check. Hang on. Local position. It might be local position. Yeah, we'll use local position. So local position. We want to say if the local position here is with an if is greater than a value, and we'll put that value in here, B. And for now, we're just going to change two values here, 1 and 0. And 0 would go if it is greater than B or less than B, and then that will go into opacity. So the UVs of this might be a bit busted. Also, I want to mask this in, just get the height. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so that goes in the local position there, and apply that. And so when I increase this value, I mean, you're not going to notice it here, so it has to reload each time. But if I increase that a little bit more, you'll see it gets filled up a bit more and more. Okay, so 0 is halfway because that's where the root is of that object there. So we'll just bring that down. Now, obviously, the cap here is see-through. So what would be the solution to that? You can make it two-sided, obviously. That'd be one easy way of doing it. But that may get a bit weird. There'd probably be a smart way of doing that. I'll think of that in a second. First, let's just chuck that onto our tube here. Make sure that works on this. Okay, and there's our tube effect. So obviously the glass I haven't done. The glass would be an extra thing you put on top of it. You can change that value up and down. And now if you want it to be filling up like a bit wobbly, you can use sine waves to add values to it. So this value here, we can use time into a sine wave and add these two together. And now you see it like hover a little bit. I can multiply this a little bit. Multiply by 10. And you got that sort of wobble. Maybe a bit too much, 10, but you get the gist of that one. The cap, though, there is a way of doing the cap. What would be the way of doing the cap? I mean, two-side looks weird for some reason. I mean, someone's done a write-up, no doubt, of this same sort of thing to do this. But what would be the way of doing that? You need to parallax it a little bit, don't you? I feel like you need to parallax it, but I could be mistaken. I don't know. I mean, something like this would probably take a lot of wiggling and working out as well. Another thing we can also do on this thing here, instead of a sine wave, if we want to do like a wobbly bit, is using a texture. Noise. I don't know. We'll just take this. Okay, that's rolled up like that, and then we'll do a panner, and then I don't know, 0.5. You get that sort of wobble. Okay, so that looks all right. Yeah. So yeah, then all you need to do to make it animate and going up and down is make it a dynamic material instance that you can then raise and lower. So if I were to make a material instance of that, and then I didn't make the thing. Make this a parameter. Volume. Do that. Save. Okay, and if I clicked on that, we could raise this up, raise it down, things like that. Obviously, use a better texture probably, but you can see where it gets a bit weird at the top. And so there's a better way of doing the cap maybe. Well, and there is definitely a way of doing the cap better, but essentially that's it. That's how you get started with that. So the way this works, so you understand it, is the local position gets you the location of the pixel is in relation to the actor that it's on. So the actor's root is 0, 0, which is right in the middle. So if that top part there is 50 pixels away, it'll be 50 pixels away from the root there. Okay, it'll be positive 50. Below, be minus 50. So that's what that local position means. It does that. And then what we're saying is if that pixel position, that position where it's rendering that material, is below a certain value, in which case the certain value is our volume, which is 0, right in the middle. If it's below it, we're going to set it to 1, so it's opaque. Otherwise, we'll set it to 0, which will make it not opaque, make it translucent. And then we got this thing here moving and adding a little wobble to it, a bit of noise, so it does that effect on the thing. But that's essentially the basics of it. As for the cap thing, I would have to do some research. There is I know there's people who have done it, papers and that out there for it. So I think there's even a GDC talk where you can look up how they did it. But yeah, definitely a way of doing it. You can even make it like look on the rotation of the actor as well, so it always stays level based on which way you rotate the tube. But hopefully that gives you a good starting spot to think about. Next question. Ines Ines Derb, is it possible to use a blueprint as foliage? I have a huge map. I need to spread resources around it. Not as foliage. No. No. Sorry, I don't believe so. No, there may be a smart way of doing it, but I can't think of an easy way of doing it. So hey, but again with a quick one, how to make a decal doesn't project on the player. So on any actor, not just player. If you don't want it to project a decal on it, you just go to its mesh, type in decal in its components and in its details component, and turn off receive decals, and then if it won't react to it. Dal M, on a sphere trace, when swinging the weapon, how do you get the mesh you hit to play physical animations? For example, arm jolts if the hit in the arms, but the mesh continues to play its animations. So, I mean, obviously you need the animations to do it. I don't have the animations on me. So let me see if I can figure out a way of showing you without being able to show you. So if you want it to play an actual animation of a jolt, okay, I've done it before without animations by just turning physics on briefly for that body part. But if you want it to play a certain animation in that certain position, you need to send out what reaction you want to do. So let's say, for example, I mean, there's quite a few ways of doing this. Let's say you've got okay, let's try this. So go into blueprints, try enumeration, E, hit part, and here we have none, left arm, right arm, and then head, for example, and whatever else you're going to do. And then on your animation state here, you have a variable for E hit part. There it is. And drag that out and do not switch, blend by blend poses E hit part. So you can use this thing. Let's say I'll put this over here, for example. So the default pose will be that one. Okay. But if I want to add other bits in here, so left arm, right arm, head, none. Okay. And plug that out. You can put in different animations for those elements here. So it doesn't have to be here. It probably wouldn't be here. It'd probably be somewhere else. But you could do something like this, for example. So when you do get hit, you look at what part of the body got hit. So if it's the arms, you want to call an event graph function on it. So custom event on hit. That's coming through there. And then that's it. And then on the actual animations, again, I don't have them, so I can't show you. You add a notify event, and when you add that notify event, you add the notify event here, and then you do the E hit part back to none, so it doesn't do it for too long. Okay, so it does it once and only once. But that would be the way that would work. Okay. So yeah, put that there. Cool. So that's a way of doing it. You don't have to do it that way. There's a few. James, asking the same sort of thing. Can you explain the additive animation of hit reaction? So yeah, what I did. So the hit reactions are would be additive. So additive means that if your character's got a base pose of them holding a gun up like this, for example, and the animation of them getting hit is like this, it's going to add the bone movement that's happening there onto that base pose there. So that's what that is. You can have additive onto additive as well. So if you've got other things being additive, you can do that, like aim offsets, for example, that they're additive, so you can make them compound if you want. But yeah, that is a way of doing something along those lines. But honestly, I think physics-based ones are pretty simple to do. So yeah. Skull, basically, is it possible for a solo dev to set up live service for a game and have a lobby system with servers instead of dedicated servers which users rent themselves? Unless you've got a good network engineering background, no. So if you've got servers you want to host yourself and you want people to rent servers from you, then you need to be in the business of understanding how networking and how to sell servers to people, and have good enough bandwidth and internet to be able to do so, which isn't very common. But if you have that skill, great for you. I don't. But essentially all you're doing is connecting to an IP address. So you can connect people directly through an IP address rather than relying on things like Steam or whatever. You can direct straightly to the IP address. Those IP addresses need to be pulled by something. So you usually have like a lead server where the game connects to, that pulls all the IP addresses of the servers that it's trying to connect. And yeah, and then you can connect to them. But it is not going to be easy to do unless you have that solid background in network engineering. That's it. I don't. Jordan S. I'm having hey Ryan, I have a question about a bug I'm experiencing with the built-in water system's underwater shader. Sometimes I see a circular shape at the right angle. I have a picture I can share in Discord. Yeah, do share it in Discord, mate. Save me setting up the whole water system. Ben, how to become like you and know a lot about Unreal? Two things. Use it every day. And second thing, understand what it is that you're doing. Don't just copy and paste what people have told you to copy and paste. Actually understand what it is the thing you're putting in actually does. By experimenting with it, poking it, seeing what happens. And that's it. And that helps you build your understanding of Unreal and so forth. That's all I do. Antonus Nick, hey there, just making a door similar to Resident Evil 7. I have the states going where you can partially open, fully open, or close with severe traces. How would you recommend going around restricted hinge part? Okay, a part that allows you to push the door. Make it a physics asset that you can grab. I've done it a few times before in other videos, but just make it a physics asset that when you grab, you can move it. I can't remember how the doors in RE7 actually work, but that's what it sounds like you're trying to do. So, in here we have a door. I'll tell you what, we actually use a door mesh. Door. And we'll add a physics constraint to it. And the physics constraint there, I'm going to leave at that door frame there. And I'm going to take to constrain it so it only swings. So if I click on the physics constraint, go down to, well, first of all, component names. So component name 1 is going to be static mesh. Like that, and it highlights it all red. Like that. I don't need to worry about component name 2 because I'm not constraining it to anything else. On here, I want to go to the swing motions here, and I'm going to lock this one. No, I want that one free, that one locked, that one locked. Yeah, there you go. So you can see the circle there going around, so it shows the movement range they can go through. So normally you want these a bit limited, so we'll change it from free to limited. So it's like that. We'll increase the range here to 65, maybe. We'll do 95. 100. We'll do 100. There you go. And I want to rotate it around like that. So that is its full movement there. And the door needs to be set to simulate physics. But you can only do that if it has actually got collision, which this doesn't. So let's add a box collision to it. There we go. And now I can add simulate physics. Compile. And drag that in. Like so. Oh, wrong side. It's a bit stiff, but you can see it working now. It's probably a bit stiff because it's in the ground. Let's raise up a little bit. There we go. There we go. And so the door you can push open and things like that. But if you don't want to push it open, you want to make it so that you have to hold a button to push it open. Just turn its physics off until you push the button to open it, and then you can grab, like you're grabbing it, and then you can push it open. That is the easiest way of doing it. I don't know whether that is what you're trying to do or not, but that's the way you do it, because you just turn this off and on based upon whether or not you walk into it and hold the key. So if I turn it off, for example, nothing will happen. Okay, so you just turn physics off and on. Hopefully that helps you out there. Oh, hello. Still getting used to the new mic position. Where are we? Next question. We've got oh, I've just lost a load of messages, I think. Don't know. Well, we'll figure it out. How to do sorry. Hellberg, would you typically recommend exporting characters as separate FBX files from their weapons and then attaching them in the engine? I mean, if you're able to equip, unequip, or swap weapons out, then yeah, you need them separate. But you don't have to. If they are using that one weapon the whole entire game, you want to keep that there. By all means, you can make it part of the mesh if you want. I personally don't, just because I like flexibility in changing things. So yeah. Ben, yeah, I think that's why I'm not learning. I'm not getting why people are doing it the way they do. Just copy it. Yeah. So what you need to do is, my advice to everyone I teach is, when you're looking at code or being told solutions to code, if you're doing something and you don't understand what it does, stop whatever you're doing and figure out what that thing does, what the function does, what the variable does, how it works. Just stop what you're doing and look at it and analyze it. Sure, it makes it longer, but you understand a lot more about what's going on. So make sure you understand it like that. That helps out a lot. Red, would it be better to use a skeletal mesh for that door? No, not necessarily. The reason why is the mesh isn't itself deforming. A skeletal mesh is used only when the parts of the mesh are going to move and deform from each other. But if it's just one mesh that's moving all on its own, you can just make it a static mesh and it'll be fine. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Elijah Games, when I package a game, it gets stuck on shaders and keeps compiling 4K shaders. The log displayed says missing cache shader map for shot or SM5 default. First of all, most of your textures shouldn't really be 4K. The highest you should really go is about 2K, really. And I think I've explained this somewhere before, but when you're thinking of textures for stuff, you only want to texture things based upon their usage in the game and what kind of resolution they'll be on the actual screen itself. So you think about your screen is 4K, a 4K screen, okay? But the gun model is only ever going to take up, oh baby, like 10% of that screen, maybe 25% of that screen. In that case, then it only has to be like a 1K image for a texture, because it's only a quarter of the screen. It will never take up the full resolution of your monitor. Yeah, it just won't. So there's no point in adding resolution to it when you don't need it. Same goes for other little details. If it's small and insignificant on the floor, it's never going to get bigger than whatever. You can't zoom in on it or whatever. Then you don't need 4K resolution. So there's very little reason why the 4K resolution. The most you'll get is a wall, maybe if you go right close to a wall. But even then, a 2K one should be just fine. Most games you play at home at 2K resolution, most probably at max, to support a 4K resolution screen. But yeah, don't use 4K textures for. If you do, make sure they're only for big things that are important and are going to be covering large amounts of the monitor. Yeah, 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 1 Metrish. I have a plunge attack. Since the height of the attack can vary, how can I play in a camera shake only when the player hits the ground? Okay, let's do it. Let's make a plunge attack. So, I obviously don't have an animation, but what I'll do is I'll go to my character. Oops. And I'll increase the jump. Jump velocity here to 1200. Like so. And I'll put a little input here to do the attack. So I'll just, when I push the 1 key, for example, we'll launch the player to the ground. So launch character. And we'll launch them with a Z override. Minus 700. Okay. So you should launch them down into the ground. So let's test that out first of all. Yeah, it works. Just need a bit more power, I think. Let's change that to minus 1200. Bang. Bang. Okay, cool. Right, so to make this work, what I recommend you do for the camera shake. First of all, let's make a camera shake. Class, all classes. You search for the camera shake class, and you'll find it in there. Camera shake base. There you go. Okay. Plunge attack. I think you called it, didn't you? Oh. Plunge shake. We'll call it. I don't know. And in here, we're going to go root shake pattern. We'll do purling noise. That's completely random. And we'll leave that all alone. I think that's fine. Duration 0.5 seconds. Actually, I'll keep it with 1 because it might not show that well on stream. So do that. Okay, so what you can do is on your character, there's a landed event, which obviously happens when they land. Now, you don't want it to fire every time because otherwise what will happen is it will shake every time you jump and land on the floor like normal. So, for example, if I think you take the camera, is it this one you take out and do shake? No, it's player camera manager we want. Get player camera manager. Shake. And we're going to do start camera shake. Shake class. Plunge shake. In there. So to show that working, if I were to just jump on the spot and land. Or not. Might have to just turn this up a little bit. Let's just increase this to like 10. Yeah, it's working. Just needs to be a bit more violent. Frequency, we'll do 10 as well. I can't remember which way the frequency goes. If it's a higher or lower. Yep, that's it. Okay, so we've got that little shake. Okay, but as I say, that's happening all the time. Even when I do a normal jump, or even if I fall off stuff. If I just go up here and fall, it will do the shake. Yeah, so we don't want that to happen. So you've got 2 things you can do. 1, you can look at your velocity, or 2, you can set up a Boolean system. I'm going to set up a velocity system. So if I was falling at a certain height and I'll reach a certain velocity, I would also shake the ground. So if I don't do the plunge, I just fall from a great height, it would do the same thing. So what you do on the landed here, you get velocity, and you're going to get the vector length, and that will give you how fast you're going. So now it's just a matter of figuring out what speed you want this to go to. So when it's greater than, and put that into a branch. Now I'm launching it at a rate of 1200. So if I change this to 1000, that might do it. Let's take a look. So it should only do it now when I'm going to a certain speed. Still too fast. Help with this actually. Let's do a print string. So we know what value we're getting here. Print. Print that out. So when I land, I'm landing at 1204. 1700 is when I plunge. Okay. So let's bring that up then to 1500. So now it should only shake when I do the plunge thing. So normal jump, nothing. Plunge, shake. And it should do the same, hopefully, if I fall. Nothing. But if I fall at a certain height, maybe if I jump off this, hopefully I'll build up enough speed. Yeah, there you go. So you can do things like that. But that would be the quickest, easiest way of doing that. So you've got plunge, doing that. And you can even add like a radial burst to that too if you want. So for example, I can go to my mesh, add a radial force. And this radial force here, I can set the radius of this to be 500. Impulse strength will do as 50,000. No, do 5,000. We'll start with there. 5,000. Force strength will do as 2,000. And like that. And when we start camera shake, we'll just do radial force, fire, impulse. So when you do that, need more force. It moved a little bit. Let's give it a bit more oomph. So radial force. I'll tell you what, we'll take. No, we won't. We'll just do it here. So yeah, just change that to a factor of 10. So it's now 50,000. Okay. And as you can see, it's knocking me back as well. It's that powerful. Yeah, you can do fun things like that. And obviously deal damage and things like that. Anyway. Victor NR, hello Ryan. What's the best way to block out a level in Unreal? Sort of prototype and make a draft of a level. So I actually spoke about a little bit like this a previous live stream I've done a couple of weeks ago called Level Design. It'll be available for everyone available this weekend, but it is available on Patreon right now if you want to watch it. But you can see me cover a lot of good tips there. So I won't rehash the same stuff because it's so recent. But check out that video when it comes out public, or if you're a Patreon member, head over to Patreon and you can watch it right there. You're welcome, Saeed. Oh, you're at 4,000 shaders. Okay, get stuck on like that. Yes, you do. Compiling shader does take a long time. You probably just have to wait it out. I mean, depends on how long you leave it. It's interesting to know how long you've left it for. So, it should. Cat. Yeah, my cat escaped. Yeah, the cat's name's Otto, by the way. Red Fogs. How to create an offset for an object moving on a spline. Best on runtime. Okay, so if you are moving on a spline, I mean, let's do a quick example then. Spline test. And add a spline to this. And I'm just going to move an object, a block around it. This cube here. I'll just make it smaller. 0.1. There you go. Okay, so this block here is going to move along this spline. So on the event graph, we're going to do on begin play, timeline, and do some track here to get moving. The cat is back. 0, 1. Oh, that one is 1, 1. And then put this one back to 2, 0. And change that to 2. And we'll set to loop. Okay, and on here, we are going to take my cube and take my spline. And we're going to get position, get location at distance along spline. And the distance we want here is going to be this multiplied by the length of the spline. And that'll go into there. And this will be local, so I'm going to make this a relative. So set relative location to that point there. Okay, so first of all, let's see that working. It should be moving along the spline, no problem. So let's drag that out. Okay, made it a bit too small, but never mind. So I've just moved my spline point along here, and we'll curve it around here. Okay, so push play. Oh, there you go. So now let's say I want to offset that. So you've got a couple of things to be aware of when you're doing this. One is that this is relative location. Okay, so this position here is where it is in relation to the actor that it belongs to. In other words, the cube belongs to this. So the actual actor itself is going to be the parent. So if I'm going to do things like height, for example, simple enough because my spline isn't actually changing much. So I can just go into here and add a vector to it. And so if I want to make increase the height of it, this Z here could be a height value. So now let's say I want my thing to go like this, up and down, as well. So I could take this value here and multiply this by a strength. We'll do, I don't know, 50, and split that into the Z then. So remember, this value is going between 0, 1, and then back down to 0. So the cube should go up and down like this. Now I'm going to slow it down a little bit as well, so it makes it easier for us to look at it. So I'm just going to take the timeline now. Set play rate. And we'll do as simple as 0.1. Okay, so it'll take 10 seconds to go around. Okay, so as you can see, it's going up and then it's going to go back down. Okay, so you can use things like that. So it goes up to here and it goes back down. And I can easily make that a bit stronger by just changing this 50 value here to something a bit higher. So 500, for example. We'll make the box go even higher. It goes up like that. Okay, so you've got a little offset going on there. Now, with that offset applied, that can also be done to the X and Y too. So if I bring that back in and put this on the X, oh no, we'll do it on the Y, like this. It's now going to go way out here as well. Still following the spline, just offset. So it depends on how you want to offset it, but there you go. It's offsetting all the values that it gets from there. Yeah. Now, at the moment, when I'm doing X and Y, you can see here Y is going to go out. Now, before I had it ending over there, it's not respecting like the rotation of the spline. It's just doing the world Y, not world Y, the local Y. So if I wanted to get the tangent as well and make it rotate on the spline as well, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, on like an axis type thing, you need to get the tangent of the spline and use that as its location and recalculate that. So on the spline here, you're going to get tangent at distance along spline. Get the same thing down here, and that gets you the angle it's going at. So if I were to let's say multiply this by this value and then add it onto here, we combine that. That should do it, I think. Oh, where'd it go? Hang on, let's simulate it. There's my cube. Cubey! Don't see it. I swear the tangent would be that. Okay, let's print string that tangent. Let's just pinch string it. Pinch string. The tangent. It's just a normalized vector, so it shouldn't cause... Oh, no, it's not. Right, that'd be right. Okay, so I need to normalize that. Tangent at distance on space. Okay, so normalize that, and then put that into there. Okay. Yeah, I wanted the value to go between 0 and 1, not anywhere else. Okay, there you go. So now it should follow the spline, but keep that certain tangent up off of it. Okay. So you can see it working on its way around that. Okay. So it goes around. So let me just double check the spline point. So the spline point, annoyingly we can't see it that well. So it goes along here. And we should see it. Remember, it's... No, that should be... Oh, I'm not multiplying it, I think. Normalize it. I am multiplying it, so why is it doing that? That should be right. French spring. Try see what that value is. Yeah, no, it should be more than that. Why is that only a little bit? Multiplied by... So if it's 1, it should be at 500 times the tangent. Oh, I don't need that tangent. I need the normal of it. So rotate vector. Sorry. I need the perpendicular to it, not the tangent. The tangent is when you've got like a round shape like this, it skims along the top like that. So it's going to naturally follow around, which is not what we want. We want to get its normal vector coming out of it. There you go. So that should curve round now, hopefully. A bit better than it did previously. Yep, there you go. Cool. That's one. So that all works. So to recap what's going on there. So when you want to do height, the height looked like it worked because I didn't actually move my spline up or down or anything like that. But what you need to do is you need to take into account the rotation of the spline if you want to offset from the spline at even point across the whole entire thing. Now, obviously, at the moment, I'm doing it based upon the distance here, but and the vector coming from here, but this doesn't need to be that. I could be just using a flat value in this instead. So, for example, I could just use... I just convert to float and just put in 250. That'll be a flat 250 across the whole entire thing. And basically I'm getting a tangent. So the tangent, again, on a rounded object, so it's a rounded object, the tangent is that angle there. So it's like this. Okay, so it's giving me that vector. I don't want that vector, I wanted this vector, the direction. So when it went round, it followed it round like this. So I took the tangent and rotated it 90 degrees. So when I turned it 90 degrees, it would give me the normal of it. Okay, because normally you don't get the normal from a spline normally. But that will give me the normal. So now I can get that distance from that normal. I don't know if that's coming through my little diagram of how this works. So tangent like this, I'm going to rotate it around 90 degrees to get the normal. And then I'm using that to offset it from the spline's location. And that's how the maths behind it works. But yeah. Is it possible to tell the object in the middle to change to another spline, i.e. another direction? Yes, as long as it is a separate object. It can't be part of the same object here unless you've got two splines on the same object. You can split between them, in which case you need to determine when that should happen. But one thing that help you with this, we don't have time to really go through it, but you can get the spline here and you can get location. No, not location. Where is it? Get position. Closest Find location closest to world location. So you put in the location of the object you want to check here, say the cube, for example, and this will return. So when you want to swap it over to that spline, you need to know at what point on that spline is it. So you need to work out between 0 and 1, what position is it at on that spline. It's a little bit, as I say, it's quite involved. We don't have time to go through it all today, but that's a useful node to be aware of, is that you can find the location closest on the world location based on the spline edge. Same goes for tangent and other things. You can do the same thing there. Thank you, Joel, for the donation. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Colin Brooks, have you had any experience with working with the Chaos plugin? It's not well documented. I'd love to know how to use it properly and remove the remnants efficiently. Yes, I have played around with it and done some stuff with it. Obviously not made any videos yet on it. It's on the to-do list. But yeah. Don't know when. But I agree, the documentation of it is poor. That's why I was intrigued to try and figure it out so I can make videos on it. I've got a few things tied up for it, so I might try something. How do I get started with creating game ready foliage, trees and grass from scratch in Blender for Unreal? Any tutorials you can recommend? No tutorials I can recommend, but most games we use something called cards. Basically it's when you get a plane, another plane, and intersect them together. And you now use a texture to get the game ready foliage together, and that's most foliage in game how it works. It's a variety of cards. If you want to look at it and how it works properly, you can look at the foliage in the starter content, for example, to give you an idea of how it looks. So if I go into starter content, props, and go to bush, you can see the cards here, and all they've done is put a texture on it with an opacity mask on it. But they are just textures, planes. Thank you. They're just planes. They don't provide nothing like that. So if I change that to wireframe, it's not going to help, is it? You can kind of see the planes there. Right, they've used a lot more planes here to get a bit more variety and a bit more shape to it. But that's all it is, just planes stuck together almost randomly to get that effect. Yep. Yeah, that's how it works. How did you delete that print string execution pins connected? I think I'll get asked this every time I do a question time. So once again, you go into here. So let's say you've got set actor location, and you had a print string in between it, and this goes for many other nodes as well, not just print strings. If you want to delete a node but keep the connection, hold down shift and delete, and it'll get rid of it. So if you hold down shift and delete it, it'll keep the execute lines in. So once again, click shift delete. That's how you do it. Another tip, by the way, of things you can do, you can also hold down control and drag pins and move them to other places like that, and that works for multiple things. So if you've got multiple things coming from this, you can connect and grab them all at the same time. So yeah. Just a couple more questions, or one semi-big one. Lux, could you show us a quick way to communicate between a hypothetical key, its keyhole trigger, and the door it opens without casting? Sure. I don't know why you're adverse to casting, but yep, we can do that. So let's go back to my door example here that I made. Did I make? Where did I put it? I have no idea where I put it. Alright, never mind. Okay, we'll just make another door. Door. And in here, I'll just do a very simple cube. Okay, and on the event graph here, we have a custom event for door open. And we'll make it just destroy the cube or hide the cube. So destroy a component, for example. Okay, but obviously you do an actual door opening thing, just saving time. So door open does this. Now door open you want to tie to an event that happens. Now the variables down here need to know what key is going to be triggered. Okay, so keyhole is, I think you mentioned, so do keyhole, and that'd be editable object. Now you need to make a keyhole actor for that to reference, so make a new actor and do keyhole, and over here then we can change that to keyhole, and that'd be an object reference. Okay, so let's go to the keyhole. So on the keyhole, we'll do again a simple shape thing here. I'll just do a collision box and do something like this, like that. So this keyhole here, you'll have an event for it to trigger a key, okay, being triggered, okay. But event dispatchers here, you're going to event dispatcher, do on keyhole unlocked, okay, and hit compile and save that. Now on the event graph, when we do, we'll just make it so when we walk through it, we can go other actor if it's equal to the player character, and that goes to a branch. If it's equal to the player character, we get keyhole unlocked and call it. Compile that and save that. So on the back on the door, on begin play, you take your keyhole reference and get it. A good thing to do is, by the way, make this validated get, in case you forget to assign it, you won't get a weird crash. So on the keyhole here, you can now do a binding. So bind event to keyhole unlocked, and now you can drag it from there and do create event, and from the create event you can choose your door open in there. Okay, compile, save. So now that would work. So if I put in a door, so I put a door up there for example, and like that, and we'll put a keyhole there. Oh, will help if I actually set up. And then you have to assign the two together. So I have to link that door to that keyhole. So on the door here, I go to the keyhole and I can use the eyedropper tool to select my keyhole. And now you can see it select there. I could alternatively hit the drop down and choose one keyhole from the map. So if I hit play now, oh, not simulate, play. See, it looks okay. But then if I walk through here, my keyhole would unlock and the door would disappear. Okay. And that's how that works. And if you've got a key you want to check that you have in there, then whatever you do in the inventory system, or if you're actually holding it, you check if it's overlapping that. I don't know, there's a few ways you're doing key stuff, but using this sort of setup with the event dispatchers to help bindings works really well. It makes a nice one-to-one relationship between things like doors and buttons and switches and things like that. So definitely have a crack at using that method. That brings us to the end of today's live stream. So thank you so much for coming to this live stream. Now hold on, before you go, I want to tell you about what's coming on Saturday. So on Saturday is another Let's Create. Let's Create is a live stream where we create or recreate a mechanic or feature from an existing game. This weekend we're taking the game Hi-Fi Rush and looking at it's a rhythmic world. So the whole world bounces and changes and goes to a beat. So we're going to go through the process of how to set up something like that and show you how to do that live, both with textures as well as actual objects in the scene as well. So come by on Saturday 9 PM UTC and come by and learn how to do that. By the way, thank you so much for all the Patreon members for their donations and support in the channel. Without you guys, this channel would not exist, so thank you so much for your help in supporting me and the channel. If you'd like to support me and get early access to all my videos from just $1 a month, you can head to patreon.com/RyanAiley. You can sign up now and so get started on the C++ series that's on there, as well as the Quest series, the Survival series, more AI stuff. I don't know, I lose track of what's on there, so there's loads, okay, and as well as like other Discord benefits too. So once again, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all next time, hopefully on Saturday, for our Hi-Fi Rush Let's Create. Thanks so much everyone, have a good night, bye.